Tonight, a homeless encampment deemed a fire hazard is coming down, thanks to a personal visit from Saskatoon's new mayor. Also, scurvy is back and Ronge is searching for solutions. Plus, the deep freeze continues in Saskatchewan with a warm light at the end of the tunnel next week.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Friday, November 29th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, thanks for watching. Tonight, we start with news that a makeshift shelter for homeless people in Saskatoon is coming down. For nearly a week, the man behind the camp has defied city orders, burning a fire inside the tented area. The new turn of events comes after a visit from Saskatoon's new mayor. Alina Mahalik reports.
This tented area on 20th Street is coming down after a 6-day disagreement between the camp leader and the city of Saskatoon. The breakthrough came Friday morning when newly elected Mayor Cynthia Block and an elder went inside the tent to speak with camp leader David Finday.
I didn't want to go to there. I wanted them to come here. So they did.
I'm just very grateful to Elder Ducat and David Finday for the conversation we had this morning. I'm hopeful that people will get safely housed and the opportunity for the cultural practice of smudging can continue.
Proper protocol was followed as well, by the mayor to kick it off, and it went well. So we had an understanding, that how we do things in a cultural way.
A dozen people have been smudging and staying warm inside the makeshift shelter as temperatures dropped to as low as -30 in the city. Finday had a permit to burn a fire outside for smudging purposes. But not only did his permit expire, he was burning the fire inside the tent, something the fire department said was dangerous. The two sides met Thursday, but were at an impasse.
The last thing we ever want to do is have that heavy decision to have to take anything down ourselves. So that's why we want to work with you.
Finday said the fire was ceremonial and could not be extinguished, but he admits he doesn't know much about traditional practices. So Elder Duquette advised him to burn his fire as bright as he could, and that when it dies out, that's his cue to go.
He basically committed himself to out the fire and then the structure itself. So, but we're going to try and find a site to have a teepee for the continuation of the fire.
The fire department said the ventilation of a teepee is a safer option to hold a fire. Finday is willing to work with the city to set up a teepee in the neighborhood instead. Still, he feels bad about tearing down the structure.
And that's what's killing me. It breaks my heart to have to do that, to put all these people back out on the street again after I took them off.
Mayor Block assured Finday that she will work on getting the people using his camp into shelters. Helena Mahalik, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Scurvy is something usually found in history books, but the community of Ronge is grappling with it right now. More than 24 cases of it. Alexander Silberman has more.
Ronge is the hub of Saskatchewan's north, a small town with long winters and vast lakes, struggling with the challenges of isolation and the diseases that come with it, including scurvy.
Susan, do you want to get tea?
At the food bank, volunteers deliver hampers to 50 families each week. They're seeing a growing number of people struggling to put food on the table.
Most weeks we will fill up what we can do and then have to turn people away.
Food insecurity is so dire, doctors at this clinic started noticing symptoms of the centuries-old disease. They later diagnosed 27 cases of scurvy. So rare today, single cases are often the focus of entire studies.
Vitamin C is just sort of a canary in the coal mine, if you will, in terms of what else people might be nutrient deficient in.
The cases have people pointing to high grocery prices.
At stores like this one, high transport costs mean fresh fruits and vegetables are often limited and more expensive. And for many, that's putting healthy food increasingly out of reach.
It's crazy. You only got one grocery store, one large grocery store. So, I mean, what do you do?
I took this picture myself here. Butterball turkey, 21 pounds, $168.
$168 for turkey.
Yeah.
Jordan McPhail represents Northwest Saskatchewan in the provincial legislature. He's hearing from people struggling to afford healthy food, especially in the most remote communities.
Families are making impossible decisions. They're trying to feed their families as most nutritious diet as they can, but they're not able to get the fresh produce.
And actual vitamin C tablets.
The easiest treatment, says Irvin, is these low-cost vitamins. But the scurvy cases highlight the need for sustainable solutions, like harvesting traditional foods high in nutrients.
I think the answer is really like, what does the community value and what does the community want to see on their plate?
A challenge Spring expects will grow as climate change could further impact northern foods. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Ronge, Saskatchewan.
A Saskatoon man is going to prison for killing his partner. Carrie Bluebell pleaded guilty to manslaughter in the death of Melissa Bear. A judge this week heard distressing facts around the young mother's death. Dan Zakreski reports.
Her name was Melissa Bear, and her family says her death was a double tragedy.
And a lot of people don't know that she was going to have a baby. She would have had her next month.
Carrie Bluebell admitted in court this week to stabbing Bear while she was 8 months pregnant, carrying a little girl. Police called to Bear's home last summer, found her stabbed a dozen times. Witnesses said Bluebell had been at the house, despite a court order saying he wasn't to see her. He had been due in court that day, accused of an earlier assault on Bear. Bear's aunt came to court after Bluebell's arrest because Melissa's mom was busy taking care of her daughter's 2 little kids.
I told her I was going to be my sister's strength. I was going to be here to comfort her, to cry with her, and to find every kind of answer that I can for her.
In an agreed statement of facts, the judge heard that Carrie Bluebell was drunk and high on meth when he attacked Melissa Bear. The reason for the violence? Bear had gone out to get him cigarettes and came back with 2 men who had more meth for him. Seeing her with the 2 men sent him into a jealous rage. Dan Zakreski, CBC News, Saskatoon.
The sexual assault trial of a Regina chiropractor is in its final stage. Ruben Mans is accused of sexually assaulting 7 female patients over a decade. The Crown says the 49-year-old abused his position while the women were under his care. The defense argued Mans is a family man who loved his job and did not inappropriately touch his patients. A 12-person jury is now sequestered after receiving instructions from the judge. They will now deliberate until reaching a verdict on each of the 7 counts. Regina is expected to lose its massive LED volume wall at the John Hopkins Soundstage next summer. Laura Sharpaletti has more on the why.
After less than a year in Saskatchewan, North America's second largest volume LED wall will be gone by mid-2025. The system was brought to Regina in partnership with local production company Karma Film and Volume Global. But their projects are getting bigger and more expensive.
We have a slate of projects coming up that are too large for the province's budget to accommodate. So, the reality is producers have to produce where the environment is appropriate for the projects that they have in front of them.
CBC has not been told how much money is needed from the province for bigger projects, but Ramaya says it would need to be double what they currently get. The wall is used as a virtual location backdrop. Other media organizations say Saskatchewan has many other tools in its belt.
I'm sorry to see them leave, but to be honest, it actually presents a bit of an opportunity for the province.
Robert Hardy says Volume Global has had the soundstage booked exclusively for some time. They've made 2 films and have 2 more on the way.
That soundstage hasn't been available for anyone else to use. So we've actually had producers who are inquiring about using it, and they've had to be turned away. So the opportunity is that once they have finished their slate, we'll be able to fill this with other productions, other movies, other television series.
It's important to know that the departure of one out-of-province producer does not negatively impact the entire film industry, as it might seem like it is. Saskatchewan continues to attract both modest and big budget productions.
In the meantime, Karma Film hopes to do plenty of projects in Saskatchewan in the near future.
So I'd love for, conversations to continue on how we can, in the future, perhaps facilitate doing some of these larger shows.
Creative Saskatchewan says the province's film industry cannot support large productions right now, but there's hope that changes down the road. Laura Sharpaletti, CBC News, Regina.
Air Canada will start using facial recognition technology at boarding gates. Air Canada is posting on social media to explain how it'll work. Travelers voluntarily upload a photo of their face and passport to the app, and Air Canada says then you walk onto a flight without showing any ID. It's first being used in Vancouver with plans to roll it out in other airports in the future. The airline says all digital profiles will be encrypted and deleted 36 hours after the flight takes off, and passengers' profiles will not be linked to government-run programs. Well, let us all go into the weekend with the energy of this squirrel, just sitting there, chomping on a leaf, unbothered by anything, enjoying the gorgeous frost on those trees. Yes, it is ridiculously cold, but it will not be that way forever. Riley Lachuk will have your forecast after the break. Stay with us. NDP MLA Jared Clark says the Premier owes him an apology. Clark says Scott Moe's proposed change room policy targeted Clark's own children who are trans. CBC's Morning Edition panel discussed what happened this week at the Legislature.
The Premier put a target on the backs of my two 12-year-old kids. He held a press conference to stoke fear and outrage about two kids at an elementary school, while my children's picture was circulating on social media identifying them, while unimaginable hate was raging down on my family. Mr. Speaker, what do you think would be going through a 12-year-old's mind when they hear the Premier of their province targeting them?
That is opposition MLA Jared Clark. As you heard, he says the Premier owes his kids an apology. For more on whether they got one, we've reached our political panel. Adam Hunter covers politics for CBC Saskatchewan. Murray Mandrick writes a political column in the Regina Leader-Post. Good morning.
Good morning.
Adam, what happened?
It's a really good question, and I think that was something that for sure caught me off guard. We hear the throne speech debates, and it's usually, thank yous and how I got here's and, a bit about the personal story of the person, and you don't really pay much attention to them. I heard Jared Clark, and, we knew in the background what was happening, but we didn't report on this. We, as in the Leader-Post ourselves, it did come out during the campaign, and it was
some publications posted, right? Names, pics, everything.
And then that came through on social media, so his kids were outed. And us knowing that, I wasn't sure if Jared Clark was going to go there. Well, he really went there and then some. And the fact that Premier Scott Moe was sitting there the entire time and listened to that 12-minute speech of Jared Clark saying, you put a target on my kids' backs, you need to apologize, you're targeting trans kids, you're punching down, all those things, was really remarkable. And it's something I've never seen before there, and I don't recall having heard a speech, even in passing, someone telling me a speech like that, where the person was so personally affected by something done by the other party, and that person that they're holding responsible is the Premier. During the campaign, you mentioned that was something the change room policy came up. It was kind of out of nowhere. It was the day after the debate. It wasn't in the platform. It wasn't discussed during the debate. We're all wondering where this came from. And here it's, centered around Jared Clark's kids.
What do you make of this?
It's a sad moment in the legislature. What I make of it is I probably have more admiration for Jared Clark than I did before. Well, not probably, I do. That was an amazing speech. And I have admiration for him as someone who has made himself the target as opposed to his kids, because he's getting pilloried on social media by just the worst of the trolls. If it was me as a dad, I think I would have been a lot more angry. I think he was incredibly controlled. I think it was an incredible speech. I think he did it and asked for a statement on it. He didn't want to speak about it afterwards, but he did give the statement, said, well, I did it for the obvious reasons, because I wanted to look the Premier in the eye and tell him this. I wanted to look the government in the eye and tell them this. And I also wanted some good to come of this. I don't know if that good is going to come of this. I don't know if there's an ounce of regret by the news organization that created this whole fiasco. I think they're cruel. I think they're horrible people. I just really do. I think there is an element within the government that fits that description as well, because I don't doubt for a moment what Mr. Clark is saying, that the government indeed did know about his children well in advance. I think there is a direct connection through Jeremy Cockrell, who spoke on this issue before, about knowing full well that who was involved. As Mr. Clark said, it doesn't really matter who was involved, but the fact of the matter is that the government proceeded with this policy with little regard for the consequences. And now Scott Moe is realizing there's consequences to this, and he's trying to send out this message of, well, every child in school needs to be protected and everything else, which is the right message. Why in the hell did someone not tell him that was the right message in October? And I think that speaks to the morals of this government. I think it speaks to the morals of Scott Moe not knowing and realizing that instantly. I don't buy for a second that, I got caught up in whatever his explanation was as to why he did it when he explained on Cabinet Day that this is what he did and this is what he, like a smart leader, a morally strong leader would have basically said, no, I'm putting an end to this now. This is where we draw the line. Scott Moe did not do that. And I think, as Jared Clark said, that's probably going to be his legacy.
This weather update is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz Regina, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
Oh, it looks cold in Saskatoon right now. That's the Broadway Bridge. Minus 27 degrees this hour and only going to get colder. Riley Lachek has more in the forecast.
Well, as expected, Sam, a very cold morning for many of us across the province this morning. Here's a quick look at some of your morning lows. Yeah, getting down into the low to mid minus 30s for some of us. Saskatoon minus 34 overnight. Regina almost minus 30. We got to minus 29. With the wind chill, though, feeling closer to the minus 40 mark through the early morning hours today. One more of those cold mornings yet to come. In the afternoon, barely getting out of the minus 20s. Minus 20, the best we did late this afternoon in Regina, Saskatoon, minus 27. So yeah, another very cold night ahead. So we have an extreme cold warning remaining in place. Wynyard, Yorkton, Kenora through Broadview, Moosomin, Regina now included in this. We're looking at temperatures near minus 30. The wind chill again making it feel closer to minus 40 overnight. Doesn't mean it won't be cold elsewhere in the province. It just means that it meets warning criteria into this eastern section of the province. So we are looking at, as I said, another cold one ahead. Mostly clear skies still as we got through much of the afternoon hours today. Hint of a little bit of stray flurry activity, particularly in that southwestern corner, and a bit of cloud cover, which will keep things warm through that southwestern corner of the province through the overnight hours tonight. Into the weekend, as we get into the day on Saturday, we start to mix in some cloud back in, this ahead of a little bit of instability that will roll through as we get into the day on Sunday. But through Saturday, a mix of sun and clouds, maybe the oddest stray flurry for south and central sections, but it isn't really until we get overnight Saturday into Sunday that we look at maybe a little bit of snow, even a little bit of accumulating snow. So you can tell by about 11 p.m. midnight on Saturday, Saskatoon getting a little bit of light snow. This will make its way east into the Regina area and into southeastern sections as we get into early Sunday. So a very quick mover. Could see in the range of 2 to 4 centimeters. I'll show you some of the numbers. That quickly clears out through the day on Sunday. Then we're back to mainly cloudy skies to a mix of sun and clouds. So this particular model wants to give us 5 to 6 centimeters through much of south and central. I think that's a bit high. I think we're looking at somewhere in the range of that 2 to 4 centimeter range as we get through into the early part of Sunday morning, ending later Sunday for easternmost sections of the province. Minus 20 tomorrow in Regina, looking at wind chills. First thing in the morning, getting closer to that minus 30 mark, but especially into the early morning hours, we're looking at wind chills closer to minus 40. Minus 16 for Sunday, a little bit of snow. We pop back up close to freezing through mid next week. Minus 11 for next Thursday. For Saskatoon, wind chill close to minus 40 again for Saturday. For Sunday, a little bit of snow. And Sam, we also get a little bit of sun as we get into late next week.
An architectural society in London is exhibiting a gingerbread city with architects on hand, everything from towers and trains to mansions and Santa's sleighs. The theme is environmental, looking at how buildings can be reused. The dough and icing were not mixed for taste, but to be structurally sound. We'll be back after the break. An update now on a story from earlier this year. A Meadow Lake dad with stage 4 cancer had hoped to run a half Ironman in December to raise money for cancer research, but unfortunately he's now too sick to do it. But it seems his life lesson has been passed on.
Hi guys, my dad isn't doing the race anymore, so I plan to do it for him, and I hope to raise $1,000. For the swimming, I have to go 100 meters. For the run, I have to go a mile. It's been feeling really good, and I'm really happy I'm doing this for him because I love him.
We started this whole process back in December last year, and honestly, it was a kind of a way of our family focusing on something different and something positive. It was a way of Bob also staying focused and staying healthy in some pretty dark times when the cancer came back.
The medication I was on actually quit working. I had to make the call, right? Just knowing I wasn't going to be able to do it.
We were really grateful that Aubrey was able to step up, and she's going to help us kind of complete this journey and complete our project.
The fundraising thing aside, I think there's a lot of value in getting those lessons down, that sometimes things that are hard are worth doing.
Thank you for donating and all of the support. And I've raised $2,200 for cancer research.
All right, here's a look at your overnight forecast, and we're looking at another cold night for many of us across South and Central. So Yorkton, Moosomin, Broadview, this is that region where we have that extreme cold warning in place, close to -30. Regina also in that warning, -28 overnight tonight. Saskatoon getting down to -31. Yes, we're looking at cold temperatures in the Saskatoon region. Some cold wind chills tomorrow morning. Doesn't quite meet that warning criteria. Into northern sections, south end -18, Ronge -26 though overnight. Into northern sections, we're looking at predominantly cloudy skies as we get through the day on Saturday. A little bit of peaks of sunshine here and there. But by and large, we're looking at a bit of a gray day for parts of the north. A cold start and a bit of sun for some of us in southern sections as we get through the morning hours tomorrow. By the time we get to mid-morning, looking at wind chills closer to -30 in Regina, starting closer to -40 first thing, and we're really barely getting out of those -20s for the day tomorrow.
All right, thanks, Riley. And that's it for us this week. For more news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/sask or subscribe to our YouTube channel or download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching this week. Have a great weekend.